Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SportsBeat on WOUB. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jake Collins, your host for today, and joining me at the desk is
Reece Merkel,
Conor Mallonn,
Evan Johnson,
Jack Zwiezinski.
Today is episode 5 of our return. We have plenty to discuss, so let's take a glance at today's topics. Starting with soccer's big week in conference play, then we talk about football's close game against an FCS opponent. Meanwhile, the volleyball team's drought continues, and a deep dive into the MLB playoff race as teams battle for the 12 playoff spots, as well as other segments covering NFL and college football, and of course, ending with Upset Watch and our weekly awards. SportsBeat starts right now. Guys, welcome back to the table, and of course, we got to start with soccer. Our game of the week last episode was the soccer team's match against Bowling Green. Jack, this game was last Thursday. What did we see from it?
So last Thursday, Bowling Green visited Chesafield to play the Bobcats as we're starting to jump into MAC play. This game resulted in a draw of 1-1 with our goal coming up from Iro Fakenau off an assist from Jamison Brooker in the 77th minute. Yet again, I have to sing the praises of Celeste Sloma. She had 5 saves on BG's 9 shots. Ohio's defense kind of took over this game as the Bobcats controlled possession in the second half. Scoring opportunities came in the 28 and 32nd minute. BG had 3 scoring opportunities, 6, 21, and 22nd minute marks. After a bunch of back and forth, Bowling Green defender Gabby Lampardi evens it up at the 82nd minute. Bobcats had 1 more scoring opportunity in the 88th, but the shot went slightly over the net to tie up the game. Bowling Green outshot Ohio 9-6 and had 6 shots on goals to Ohio's 3.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge for this game, Evan, I know you were at the game as well, so I'll go to you. Did you kind of feel like that the pressure for both teams was just kind of like at bay? It seemed like they were very conservative in those first 30 minutes where, it was just about ball possession and time control.
It really was. It was almost a boring game, you could say. Especially that first half, Bowling Green just kept it in their own territory, just kind of passing it back and forth, trying to get to the other side, trying to find a hole in the defense somewhere. And they weren't too aggressive with the ball right away. Eventually, you saw in the second half, both teams really started to ramp up that aggressiveness. But for OU, I think this almost feels like a loss in a way, even though it's a draw and BG is going to be one of the best teams, top of the MAC by the end of the season, I believe. And when you have a 1-1 draw, especially the way it happened, if scoring and then immediately getting scored on, it's just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and the goals were, I believe, 5 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Do you think Ohio kind of was complacent in a way? Do you think they had the lead in the 77th minute and it felt like, hey, this is we're going to be able to close out this game, and then they just put their foot off the pedal?
Yeah, I think so. They haven't scored early a lot, actually barely at all this season. So they get the first goal of the game, even though it's in the second half, and it did feel like they took their foot off the gas. They're like, oh, there's only a few minutes left in the game. We've been holding them all game. We can just go and do our normal thing, and we got this game in the bag. And that's not what happened, and BG came out firing as soon as Ohio scored the goal. It looked like they flipped a switch, and they ended up getting the 1-1 draw.
Yeah, and a strong performance for the team that ended with a draw. But, Jack, I'm going to go back to you. They also had a game on Sunday. What was Sunday's match against Akron? Was it any different?
No, they ended up tying the game 1-1 as well. So we're currently at 0-0-2 against MAC opponents. It was their senior day. The Zips started early. They received a free kick in the first minute of play. Celeste Sloma was able to make a save to keep the score 0. The Bobcats fired in the 9th minute with a shot from Scout Murray, but it just didn't land. Ohio played on Akron's half of the field for most of the first half, which is Bobcat pressure that I like to see. I have to give credit, though, to Akron's goalkeeper, Ariana Vakos. She's a redshirt freshman this year. She didn't see a game for them last year. She tallied 6 saves out of 15 shots from Ohio. This was a little more of Ohio's defense limiting Akron's offensive capabilities, and the Bobcats were slightly struggling to hit their shots. That mixed with some Akron defense. They had 15 shots throughout the game, 1 goal. It's not ideal, but it wasn't a loss. Both goals came in the second half. Ohio's from Anna Burkett off an assist from Scout Murray in the 47th minute, while Akron's came in the 57th minute, 10 later, from Addison Hall.
So we just mentioned it about the Bowling Green game where the 2 goals between the 2 teams were 5 minutes apart. It was pretty much no different this game where it was 10 minutes after Ohio scored. Akron was able to answer with the game-tying goal. But the shots are, they continue to ramp up the shot attempts. They haven't been able, especially in this Akron game, to get the shots on goal as well. That's something that they kind of struggled with. But in terms of this game, for anybody at the table, like, did we see improvement from this Akron game?
No, I think we saw a decline. I think this game was a lot more telling than the BG one. You see the 1-1 in each game, you think, oh, that they're just kind of staying about the same. Akron is one of the worst teams in the MAC, and there's no reason Ohio should have lost this game. And I think once you're getting into, this was the 10th game of the season, so we're officially halfway through the regular season. And when you're still kind of playing around with these teams, they need to start dominating games. They need to start building up that confidence, start getting those. I was almost expecting a 3-0, 4-0 win here from the Bobcats, but you talk about the aggressiveness. It's good. Finally seeing aggressiveness on offense right away, trying to get those, just getting shots on goal. But, I mean, Akron's goalie did a great job, but you got to start finding those in net. And both of those goals, BG and Akron, were on set plays. And how you don't fix that after BG, both times Sloma got caught in the open space and just kind of was put into an awkward position. Those are things that are controllable that they can clean up.
Yeah, and they'll need to clean up, especially with the two tough matches. Jack, I'm going to go back to you. Give us a quick little preview of what we're going to see from the Bobcats in their next two soccer games. I mean, they traveled north, and it seems like they're facing two of the best opponents from the MAC.
Yeah, so this Thursday at 4 p.m., the Bobcats are taking a little trip up to Kalamazoo to meet MAC opponents Western Michigan. Western Michigan is currently second in the MAC. They're 5-2-1 overall, 1-0-1 in MAC play, coming off a week where they beat Miami on the road and then tied BG. My biggest worry at the moment is that they have to play the Broncos in Michigan, and this Western Michigan team is on a regular season home undefeated streak of 20 games. They last lost at home against Wisconsin in September of 2023, where they lost 2-1. The Broncos had also recently added midfielder Avery Peters. She transferred from Michigan in the offseason. She's been a huge addition to them. She's had 8 points, 14 shots, 9 of them being on goal. A very talented offensive player. She can apply pressure, and we know that they've got their eye on Celeste Sloma. They're looking out for her. They have to get anything past her, so I'm expecting a little bit of a heavier shot count from them if the Bobcats' defense weakens up.
Yeah, and, you talked about it. Western's a tough team. Eastern Michigan's currently leading the conference 2-0-0 in conference play. And this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a reset week for the soccer team and kind of like figure out their standards. Because 2 draws, we don't know much about this team. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in this upcoming weekend as they take on Eastern and Western Michigan. But the next sport we're going to talk about is the football team. They had a matchup against an FCS school in Gardner-Webb. Reece, this turned out to be a battle, and I don't think most people expected it. What was the matchup like against the Bulldogs?
So, I mean, Gardner-Webb, really good FCS team. OU, we're coming off really good opponents in like Ohio State. We also had West Virginia, 2 really good opponents. I mean, this was nothing short than a skill battle. Our O-line wasn't really up to par with like Ohio State, how we looked at in that game. Really struggled to get movement up front in the first quarter. And then, Gardner-Webb, their O-line, it looked like Ohio State's as well. And they were just running all over our defense, and there was nothing we really could have changed.
Yeah, and like for the Bobcats, they were able to escape this battle with the victory of 52-35. But we saw in that first quarter, you mentioned Gardner-Webb's offense was rolling, and we saw them with the early lead of 14-3. And I was just kind of wondering, Reece, so down 11 going into the second, how were the Bobcats able to respond to this early deficit?
The Bobcats really wore down this Gardner-Webb defense. They had really long scoring drives starting out in the second. That really put them back into this ball game. The Bobcats had a 3-minute drive in the second quarter, take the lead up to 17-14. And then, Gardner-Webb, they answered back with a touchdown of their own. And then, us Bobcats, we didn't really let up and everything. And, just kind of scored a minute and a half later after that. And then after that, scored even again.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Bobcats, as soon as they finally regathered the lead to make it 24-21, they were finally able to outscore Gardner-Webb. I believe it would have been 28-7 at that point, or 28-13, 14, something like that. But overall, a great performance by the Bobcats, able to answer the call because, I mean, we talked about it last week. Luke actually mentioned it with like a little history report that Ohio's never been good against FCS teams. So as the offense, they actually did look really good, scoring 52 points, but defensively it seemed like a struggle. What was missing from this Bobcats defense?
It was the front seven, for sure. They totaled 0 sacks in the entire game. They let up 193 yards rushing, and most of that came through the first quarter, really. So, if they want to control the MAC again this year like they did last year, that defensive front is going to have to change it up a lot this week in practice. They didn't really have that centerpiece in the D line. They don't have that centerpiece in the linebackers. So it's really a toss up right now. Jack Freese is out, pretty sure for this week as well, and that's one of the biggest key points of our defense. Is he's a really good tackler. He flies around the field, and he's not there, so we don't really have that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing that I want to make note of is the Bobcat defense gave up 5 fourth downs. We cannot have that happen at all. I mean, when you're playing against any team at that point, you're looking at the opportunity to hold them and get the ball back, first and foremost, and you're looking at a team that has defensively been lights out for the better part of 3 straight games after the sort of collapse that was the second quarter at Rutgers. On the other side of the ball, though, we do have to hype up the offense here. 5 of 9 on third down, holding possession for 33 and a half, almost 34 minutes, and totaling over 600 yards of offense. You're throwing for over 290 yards and over 300 on the ground. Unbelievable stuff. You're proving that you can move down the field.
And specifically with the run game, we got to talk about C.A. Bangura's performance and Duncan Brune. Guys, what was the run game like for the Bobcats?
Bangura, he had probably one of his best games as a Bobcat to date. 123 yards alone, as well as the 3 scores, and then Duncan Brune also had 3 scores as well. It really just this running game is probably one of the best we have seen in a while.
And I think the point that is so nice to see a great performance from not only our starting running back, but our backup running back is this kind of takes the workload off of Parker a little bit. Parker did do his part. I believe he had over 70 rushing yards himself. But to see Duncan Brune be able to score 3 touchdowns and C.A. Bangura to also score 3 of his own, I believe those are career-high numbers as well. As I looked up, C.A. Bangura's rushing yards and touchdowns was a career high for him in a single game. Guys, do we expect Bangura and Brune's production to only increase as the year goes on?
I think it's a great opportunity to finally see C.A. Bangura and Duncan Brune break out. Because the first 3 games of the year, it was very much, can we get Parker to open up the run game, and can we move the ball down the field with our receivers? The offensive line was looking a little shaky the first couple weeks, but now they are getting to the point where they're opening up the run game, and we know that these running backs are incredibly talented, but now we're getting to actually see them in action. C.A. Bangura had a pretty solid career 2 years ago when he was with the Bobcats first and foremost, transferred out for a year, and we didn't really know what to expect. Now he's back, and he's performing at the level that we've seen him be capable of. And, Duncan Brune, we've just kind of been quiet on. We didn't really know what to expect from the sophomore, but now he's really proving why he is such a valuable asset to this offense.
Okay, so the offense was great, and it was great to see them put up 52 points, all these great performances. But at the end of the day, this is an FCS school. I think this is what is expected. 31 points favorites, you should be putting up 52 points. I think we're going away from the fact that they gave up 35 points. They were down early in this game. That cannot happen when you're going into action play. It's great that you played all these tough Power 4 schools, but you can't get complacent now just because you're playing weaker competition. The competition really doesn't get too much better in MACtion. There's a lot of weak MAC teams that Ohio plays, and they can't keep playing down to their competition because eventually one of those teams is going to be having a great night, and they're going to play all 4 quarters, and then you're on the upset watch.
Yeah, and whether that's an FCS team where we saw 4 years ago it was Duquesne beating the Bobcats, or it might even be a lesser opponent within the MAC. Do you think what is the certain part of the defense you think needs to step up? Reece mentioned it was the pass rush. What do you think, Evan?
I also agree it's the pass rush. If you're not getting pressure on a quarterback and going against an FCS O-line, that's a problem. They should have been feasting all game. I mean, they matched the physicality of Ohio State. How are you not able to do that against Gardner-Webb? So I think that's a big problem, and I fully expect them to bounce back against Bowling Green.
I think Bobcat fans do as well. But going into the next game, this team actually is pretty good at pass protection, so that's going to be a test. Ohio's 2-2, but begin their conference slate with a matchup at noon this Saturday. Who do they have, Reese?
BG led by Ohio State legend Eddie George. I mean, one of the best running backs of all time at that school. They did lose Harold Fannin Jr. to the NFL, but they were filled in by a new transfer this year, Johnson, who currently does lead the team in receiving yards. BG is also sitting at 2-2. Both losses are coming from Power 4 schools in Cincy and Louisville. There really isn't that standout guy in the receiving game, but the rushing game does look like they do have a three-headed monster. Chris McMillan, Cameron Petaway, and Kadarius Roberts. Across the 4 games that they have played, 449 yards, which should be the focus of this defense, is stopping the run for BG. If we can stop the run, if they can stop the run, I think we have that game in the bag.
Yeah, and of course, head coach Eddie George, a running back like you mentioned, he's going to feed his running backs. And if he's got 3 dudes talented enough, I believe, was it Roberts was the only one that was a senior, and Petaway's a freshman, a true freshman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Petaway, he's coming in, and he apparently looked good in fall ball, and, he won this, I think, second string job.
Yeah, and this is going to be a tough challenge because, like you said, they have the 3 running backs. They love using the running back, but what also that does is it sets up the play-action game, and that's when you're going to see tight end Jiron Johnson, who is the leader in receiving yards, become a factor. I mean, this is a smart football team. They got plenty of weapons around the outside. They protect really well. I believe they only give up 6 or 7 sacks this year after 4 games. So that's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a run-heavy team. We saw how bad Bobcats did front 7-wise against Gardner-Webb. BG is going to have way more talent than Gardner-Webb. Guys, do you think this is going to be something that is alarming for the Bobcats, and do you think BG might even expose it?
I'm going to say no, because one questionable performance / I would argue questionable start against Gardner-Webb shouldn't decide the entirety of the defense's season. I mean, we've seen that defense since Rutgers more or less lock into an incredible degree. I mean, they handled West Virginia to a reasonable extent, and they put on a pretty good show against Ohio State, I would argue, until the 4th quarter, where Ohio State kind of opened up the offense and wore the defense out. But at the end of the day, it's the first game of action. It's time to set the tone. And, I mean, with the way that they've performed so far this season, I think the defense just needs to show up and prove that they are as capable as they have been all season.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun matchup. We're always excited when MAC play starts because this is the season where it is the most important for all 12 teams, and actually now 13 teams of the MAC for this year. But now it's time for OU volleyball. Fans kind of expected them to bounce back in the Charlotte Invitational after what happened after the Dayton Invitational. But Bobcats, were close in all their matchups, but they didn't escape with victory. Connor, what happened this past weekend?
Well, Jake, unfortunately, the Bobcats dropped all 3 games this weekend at the Charlotte Invitational. They faced off with Charlotte, the host team, Furman, and Maryland Eastern Shore. And they took on Maryland Eastern Shore first. They had a pretty decent start to begin with. They dropped the first set, but they swiped 2 back pretty quickly. Unfortunately, Eastern Shore rallied back and forced a 5th set and took it by 2 points, 13-15. I mean, the Bobcats showed a really nice rhythm for those 2nd and 3rd sets, averaging 14.5 kills over the first 3. I mean, errors late is ultimately what cost them those last 2 sets, unfortunately. In the second matchup against Charlotte, Charlotte was very clearly the more dominant team in this matchup. Lost it 3-0, and after losing some gas from the first of their 2 matchups on Friday, Charlotte just kind of took advantage early, and they fell in all 3 sets, 25-19, 25-21, and despite forcing extra points on the final set, they fell 26-24.
Yeah, and I think it's so weird to see how they perform. And I know this is an interim head coach and Coach Brinkham, but Furman and Charlotte going into this game were well above 500, and they played them very well. I mean, I know Charlotte beat Ohio 3-0, but all three of those sets were by 6 rallies or less, including extra rallies in that third and final set. Do you guys think there's a problem that they're just kind of playing at the level of the competition and then they just can't break through in the late stages? What is it? Is it coaching? I mean, this is a young team, young coach. It's just inexperience all around, and they just can't find that breakthrough point.
Yeah, I think it can be a mix of all of that. You mentioned they have an interim head coach, right? There's not a lot of bringing that into the summer and trying to regroup around that with a young team when there's not a lot of staple pieces in this roster. But I think the good thing for this volleyball team is that the non-conference play at the end of the day really just doesn't matter. Win or lose, you want to win every game you do, but at the end of the day, it only matters what you do in conference play. The goal for each team is to win their conference, win the MAC. And so now that they had a chance to, take their punches, take their blows, now they get a chance to go out and take what they learned into MAC play.
And despite going winless this week, I mean, Connor, were you able to take away some positives from this weekend within the team or a certain player?
Absolutely. There were a couple players that really stood out this weekend. Sophomore Bryn Yonke had 100 assists throughout those 3 games, which that's an insane 3-game stretch to make in the first place. And speaking of insane 3-game stretches, once again on SportsBeat, we will talk about the fact that Bailey Blair is unbelievable at volleyball. 53 kills, 30% kill efficiency on 122 attacks, 7 aces. She led the team in all 3 of the matchups throughout the weekend. 19 in the first game, 11 in the second, and 23 in the third. Like, they're facing off against incredibly talented teams, and Bailey Blair once again proves that she is the most dominant offensive force that the Bobcats have as a freshman.
And it's just so impressive to see the numbers. I mean, these are consistent numbers now, week in and week out, where she's leading the team in kills in virtually every single game. She has high kill efficiency. She has the most attacks, most aces, and she even provides, like you mentioned, defensively. I mean, she has 28 digs and 9 blocks from this past weekend. I guess going into these upcoming matchups as well, they have 2 games Thursday and Friday. We're expecting Bailey Blair to perform very well in these matchups. But who do they got Thursday and Friday?
Well, first of all, we've got Thursday night at Bowling Green. And this is going to be the perfect test for the Bobcats. Bowling Green is 6-6 as they begin conference play, and they are in a pretty similar position to OU. They've had a couple of losses against some really strong teams, and Bowling Green has faced off against a lot of top talent. I mean, they've played 3 top 25 teams in Kansas, Purdue, and Georgia Tech, and they took an undefeated Michigan squad to 4 sets, which, I mean, a MAC team going 4 sets against an undefeated Big Ten team is always an impressive feat. And it's going to be a good gauge to see how they'll perform against not only Bowling Green, but the rest of the MAC, because they are going to be facing off with a significantly more difficult MAC opponent next when they travel to Toledo. Toledo's 9-3 overall and coming off a 3-win weekend at the Purdue Fort Wayne Invitational, where they beat Bellarmine, Mercyhurst, and Purdue Fort Wayne. So BG is going to basically be the testing board to get their feet set and show that they can face off against a MAC opponent. Toledo is going to be the real challenge because that is going to be the standard so far in the MAC.
And it's going to be, I'm just wondering how the volleyball team will do. I mean, technically they have the worst overall record across all MAC teams. They're facing Toledo, who currently has the best. And Toledo's also one of the hottest teams. The 3 opponents that you mentioned that Toledo beat, they beat them all 3-0 in sets. So Toledo's the hottest team. I think this is going to be a good learning experience. It's going to be, I think, that final hump that the volleyball team gets over, and they're going to learn from it, and it's going to be beneficial. It was a tough non-conference play. Start with 2 of the best conference teams and work your way from there. But now we're going to go to OU women's basketball. They have their schedule released for the 2025-26 season. They will start on November 3rd against Texas State. Conference play begins on New Year's Eve against Central Michigan, and they will finish with Miami on March 7th. Guys, this has been a program that has struggled for now the last 4 years, and by looking at their schedule, it looks like they're going with an easier approach in non-conference play. Evan, what's your reactions to this?
Yeah, very easy schedule. Not a single Power 4 school. There's a lot of, they have some NAI schools in there, a lot of low-level schools that they have a chance to maybe get some early wins to start building some confidence, because there's just so many question marks about this roster. Losing Kate Dennis, Kennedy Watkins last year, they both graduated. It'll be interesting to see how they handled that beginning early non-conference, and I think that will be the telltale sign of how the rest of the season will go.
And last year they finished 6-23, but it seems like, I know you mentioned Kennedy Watkins leaving the program, but it seems like this team has still a lot of redshirt sophomores, a lot of juniors, and a lot of seniors. Do you think this should be a team that could even win a dozen games with how much experience they're bringing back?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if this is how I have to put this in a good way, but I think this could be a team that wins more games than they did last year, but talent-wise is less than from last year. I think they could be a worse team, but still get a lot more wins. I think there's a couple players. Aaliyah McWhorter could take over a game. Bailey Tabling, we know, can take over a game at any moment. And I think individual performances will be able to get some early wins, but I think once we start to see this team play, I mean, there's like 5 new players. Don't really know where everyone's going to fit in yet. I think once we start seeing the on-court is when we'll get a better idea of it.
And I think in general, the team just needs to be a little more efficient. It seems like they were just chucking up three-pointers last year, and that was always something that we always questioned. And, you know, maybe even a different form of leadership at the athletic department with the new athletic director can maybe change some operations. But this is going to be an interesting team, and I'm excited to see what they do with this schedule. But now going into our next segment, we're going to talk about the MLB. Guys, this has been an awesome playoff battle. I mean, only a couple of the spots in the AL have been clinched, and now the Guardians have full control of their destiny to make the MLB playoffs, and they could do it as the division champ. Meanwhile, the Reds could be that third NL Central team. Evan, it seems like everything's worked out for the Guardians.
I mean, they are the hottest team in baseball, and they are making history right now. If they do end up winning the AL Central, it will be the largest divisional comeback in MLB history. They were down 15.5 games to the Detroit Tigers. Tigers just fell off the map, and the Guardians have just been clicking everywhere. I mean, less than a month ago, they were 12.5 games back. 5 games to go, got 2 left with the Tigers. A lot of things can happen in the next few days.
And it seems like just everyone around him played worst. I mean, we saw we mentioned the Tigers because the Guardians have beaten the Tigers plenty of times in the past couple of weeks, but we also have seen the Astros go on a losing streak. We saw Texas, who was 10 games above 500, go on 8 straight losing games, and now they're already eliminated from the playoffs. I mean, it just went the way it needed to for the Guardians.
Yeah, everything that needed to happen happened for Cleveland, and I feel like that's always happens with the Cleveland Guardians. They always find a way to make the playoffs, even if it's other teams falling behind. They're going to squeak in there, and they're going to make some magic happen.
And what do you think they're going to do for the rest of this series against Detroit? This is something they've dominated the past couple weeks. Does anybody at the table think they could just sweep and then they control the rest of their destiny?
They already have the season series in the bag, 2 more games, and let's be real here. The Guardians have played unbelievable baseball over the last couple of months. The starters have a 1.34 ERA over the last 18 games. That is numbers that you barely would see out of some of the top bullpens in the league, and we're getting this out of guys like Gavin Williams, Slade Sessione. Like, these are people that 9 teams out of 10 would probably be throwing to the back of their farm system and being like, oh, cool, they threw a couple nice games. Blah, blah, blah. No, these guys are playing out of their minds at the highest level, and the offense has done nothing but support them. I mean, David Fry takes a bunt to the face, and the offense says, cool, let's score 2 runs without leaving the infield. It's unbelievable stuff.
And I think I'm just trying to understand how teams like Houston and especially Detroit, I mean, 15.5 game lead, that should have been an easy playoff lock, but they've been struggling. So what does the scenarios look like going for them ahead of time? I mean, they need help at this point. For Detroit, they control their own destiny, but what do we expect from Houston and Detroit, teams that have been struggling?
I think technically Houston does control their own destiny. If they win out, they would get the last wild card spot, which would be interesting because then if Cleveland, keeps winning out, that could knock the Tigers completely out of the playoffs. They could not just have this big divisional league that they choke. They could miss the playoffs entirely, which, the Tigers were the number 1 team in baseball at the first few months. So we'll see, but the Astros aren't looking too hot either, so there's not a lot of confidence with any of those teams. I think the most interesting thing is even with Cleveland, if they win the Central, they'll probably just play the Tigers first round of the playoffs, which would be an electric series.
Yeah, or they will play Houston that you mentioned. And I think if you're Houston at this point, you're just hoping whoever wins tonight's game between the Guardians and Tigers, they also win that game afterwards as well for the rest of the series. So Astros are going to be needing some help. They're going to get help guaranteed, but if they split those games, it's going to be kind of catastrophic for the Tigers. But if Cleveland were to tie with Detroit, that division record has been so strong all year for the Guardians that they would get that tiebreaker. But we also got to talk about Cincinnati. They're in a wild card battle with Arizona and New York Mets. And what do those battles look like?
Yeah, the Reds do need some help. They do not control their own destiny. We've seen the Mets completely choke away at the end of the season and would not be shocked to see them do it again. They got 2 more with the Cubs, and then they play the Marlins. But the Reds just have to take care of business. They can do what they can do is win out. They got the Pirates, which they lost last night. You cannot be losing these games, especially against bad eliminated teams such as the Pirates. And then 3 with the Brewers, which the Brewers have already clinched, so we'll see kind of how invested the Brewers are into that series. But it would be really cool if both Ohio teams made these crazy late season stretches to make the playoffs.
Yeah, especially a couple of weeks ago, we thought neither of them could make it, and then they each alternated going with hot streaks. But I think the biggest thing from the Reds' perspective is I think they might have been looking ahead a little bit. I mean, that is a trap series right now, what they're facing against the Pittsburgh Pirates, just because they are talented enough to win these low-scoring games. But with the Milwaukee Brewers ahead of that, it's like the Reds must have been thinking, we got to beat the Brewers if we want to make the playoffs. So we got to play playoff baseball. And then they got caught lacking and lost to the Pirates. So I guess for these other teams, the Mets now have control. What does their outlook look like for the rest of this season?
The Mets, like I said, they got 5 games left. Cubs and Marlins. They win those final 5 games, they automatically clinch. I think maybe they only have to win 4 of those 5. There will be good. That's assuming the Reds and Diamondbacks win out. So as soon as the Reds and Diamondbacks start losing a couple of these games, the Mets are going to be very comfortable getting that spot. Diamondbacks are in the same spot as the Reds. They don't control their own destiny. They're all waiting to see the Mets lose. And so the Diamondbacks are also competing with the Reds. But I think the Reds do have the tiebreaker against the Mets as well. So if they do find their way into a tie, the Reds would also get advantage there.
And that's what the Reds are needing. They're going to need some help from either the Cubs or the Marlins. Diamondbacks have 2 tough opponents in the Dodgers and the Padres. The probability is there for the Reds. They just need to execute with what they have for the rest of the year. But now to talk about our next pro league. Guys, the NFL 1 o'clock slate was probably some of the most exciting football that we've ever seen from a single time slot. Jack, you previewed this game last week. I'll let you take over, but it seemed like the Rams and Eagles probably had the best game.
Oh, they 100% had the best game. The Eagles beat the Rams 33-26 after a field goal was blocked and scooped up by big fella Jordan Davis, who hauled to the house. I just need you guys to know, that man is 6'6", 336 pounds, took it 61 yards. He topped out at 18.59 miles per hour. That's almost school zone speed limit. That man was moving like a car in a speed zone, or in a school zone. They were trailing 26-7 early in the third and managed to bring it together. Last week I mentioned I was excited to see the big fellas in action.
They got active.
And oh my God, did they get active.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Davis touchdown. Saquon was held to 13 yards in the first half, 46 total. I mean, that Eagles, everybody on that team went off.
Yeah, and you mentioned that going into the third quarter, Eagles were trailing 26-7, and they just, I don't know what it was, but they got a shot of life. And especially playing in front of their home crowd, I mean, it was a tale of 2 different halves. It really was. Eagles looked deflated, and then they bounced back. I mean, A.J. Brown couldn't be stopped. That was his best game all year. Saquon started to come alive, and of course, the tush push was leading them down the field when it needed to at most. But I was very impressed by the Rams, but they lost this game in special teams because not only was that Jordan Davis touchdown a block kick, they also had one inside the 30-yard line, I believe, in the third quarter. So they lost that aspect of the game. But this was a phenomenal performance. This was a rematch of the NFC Divisional. And I think this was one of the better games that we've seen so far. And it seems like the Eagles are still the team to beat. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd say so, especially for the NFC. But I also think, I know we just talked about the Rams' collapse, but the Rams being up that much and competing right away, I think a lot of people wrote them off because Matthew Stafford's old. He can still sling it, and this Rams team will probably be a threat in the NFC in the playoffs.
And now for the next game, I mean, we have to talk about it. We have a bunch of Browns fans at the table, and I'm not going to be excited to talk about it, so I'm going to need the Browns fans to do so.
I mean, we're talking about big men getting active and making impacts on special teams, Jake. Shelby Harris blocking the field goal. Like,
I gotta say though, I am so sorry that their first win had to be against your team.
the Browns of Cleveland win again.
Again, this is their first win this season.
It's nice to be in the win column, man. Come on.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, come on.
But
I've been riding the high of that win all week so far.
You and me both.
But I have to say, I mean, we have to realize that the Cleveland Browns are the best defense in the NFL. I mean, statistically, the numbers are there. And even though they had like 40 points scored on Baltimore, I mean, this is a lot of problems with the offense. I mean, this offense for the Browns did not beat the Packers. It was the defense and the special teams, and they were the difference makers. And guys, are we worried from the Packers perspective? I know I'm a little bit worried, but I also think this is like a moment to where like, hey, this is a rude awakening. We're not invincible, especially against one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly that. I don't think you guys, or like the Packers as a whole, I don't think they should be too worried about it. I mean, this is a team who has held some very skilled running backs to a little over 2 yards per carry in Chase Brown, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs. Their secondary's been good. They force the run game at a disadvantage. They make you throw. I don't think this is too bad for them. I think it's hey, okay, cool. We might have gone in expecting this to be a little easier than it was. I think they'll be able to get over it. Like you said, I think it was more of
wake-up
we're not
call.
invincible game.
It was a wake-up call. Matt LaFleur talking about guys already talking about going to go undefeated after going 2-0. Like, I think this was a wake-up call. Now they get to go Micah Parsons' revenge game. I think now if you lose against the Cowboys, then that's when you have to start worrying. But, no one was thinking the Packers were going to go in 17-0, so I still think they're just fine.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, it was a wake-up call that the Packers did need very much. And another wake-up call for the Browns, you guys have a kicker that, actually was able to make a clutch field goal when they needed to.
Andre Schmidt coming in clutch from 55 yards is absolutely fantastic. I mean, that was basically the definition of to quote my backup quarterback for my backup team, Geno Smith, the people wrote him off, but he didn't write back. I mean, Andre Schmidt from 55 yards was, honestly, I was a little nervous. I won't lie. I got a little scared.
I was very nervous.
Yeah, but it was good.
And another game that ended with a game-winning field goal was this 49ers and Cardinals team, and it was a low-scoring affair, so it was kind of interesting to see that we don't really know what to expect from these teams. It seems like the Niners are defensively still strong. They won't have Nick Bosa for the rest of the year, which will be just a tragedy for the 49ers. But, guys, do we think this Cardinals team can be a contender in the NFC West? I mean, they're 2-1, and they put up a strong performance against San Fran.
Honestly, I think so. These Cardinals, they made a huge jump from last year. Marv is looking better. Kyler Murray's back. I mean, I feel like with or without James Conner, they can be a really good, solid team in the NFC West, and I think they could wreak some havoc in the playoff race later in the year.
They have talent on the outside. I mean, Harrison did look a little rough in that Niners game, but overall, he still needs to just pick up this pace. We know the potential Marvin Harrison has. Losing James Conner, of course, like you mentioned, Reece, is going to hurt, but Kyler, he still has the potential to be an MVP candidate. We just haven't seen it from him recently. Evan, I know you're shaking your head.
MVP is a little too far. How long has Kyler been in the league? We keep saying, like, maybe he'll do it this year. I think he'll take the leap this year, and he just never does. He's a solid average quarterback who's going to win you some games. I don't think he's going to be able to lead the Cardinals to the NFC West champion, or they're going to go deep into the playoffs. They might squeak into a wild card spot.
I do have bad news for you, Jake. Black Ops 7 review is releasing November 14th, 2025. So expect Kyler Murray to drop off the face of the earth.
Oh, yeah. The whole call.
I was so confused for a second where you were going with that. I was like,
I forget.
what a right turn.
Big Call of Duty gamer Kyler Murray does play worse around Call of Duty time.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
That
but
threw me
also,
off.
like,
I had no clue what you were going with.
The NFC West, like, for as good as Kyler Murray has performed so far this season, the NFC West is more or less wide open right now. I mean, the 49ers are off to another hot start, 3-0, but I mean, without Brock Purdy, I don't know how long Mac Jones is going to last at quarterback until Curtis Rourke steps up and takes his spot. But I mean, the Rams have played well, and the Seahawks are also playing well. So it's really anybody's spot at this point.
Yeah, I am shocked how well the Seahawks have played. But to
They
talk
played
about
the Saints. The NFC West is just playing the Saints right now, and they're all looking good. So let's not, like, the 49ers beat up on them. Seahawks, Cardinals, they all look great because they played the Saints. Let's be honest here. Let's say how it is.
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm sorry, Noah. I think we could take everybody in SportsBeat, and we might be able to beat the
You
Saints.
could score a touchdown on that defense.
I think
you could score a touchdown
we
on
might
that
be able to
defense.
hang 21 on their head. I really do mean that.
All right. Now, before we go completely off track, we got to first talk about this Monday night game between Detroit and Baltimore. And this was just a Lions team. Sonic and Knuckles just gashed this defense. And we've expected Baltimore to be a way better defense with all the talent that they have. But they've been getting diced up by some of the best teams. Is this a cause for alarm after Detroit won 38-30?
I think this was a little bit of a wake-up call coming off of a pretty dominant win over Cleveland. But, I mean, once again, we do have to credit the injury bug has hit the Ravens in a couple of key positions. And also, we do need to have a pretty serious conversation about the fact that Derrick Henry has had a Derrick Henry has had a fumble in every single game this season. And they've come at pretty crucial times every single time.
And we saw the reaction if you watch the Monday Night Football game. I mean, he was distraught, and he was like throwing a temper tantrum on the bench and everything. That's something we've never seen from Derrick Henry. I mean, he is losing his composure. And now that's a storyline going ahead that, hey, he already has 3 fumbles this year, 1 per game, and it seems like it might even be worse if this is still on his mind. Do you guys think that this will continue from King Henry, or do you think he'll bounce back?
I think everyone has to rage every once in a while. I mean, he got the rage out. I mean, it's obviously, I'm saying that's uncharacteristic of him. He knows he has to be better, but it doesn't get easier for him going forward. Now he has the whole world watching for him to see if he's going to fumble. They play the Chiefs now, it's a tougher defense, but I think he'll regroup and he'll still be King Henry.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a few different things at play. Yeah, everybody's going to be watching now to see if he fumbles. I think that mixed with him being held kind of almost, I can't even think of the word. He was just not.
He's in check.
The Browns defense held him in check last week, and then the Lions defense. I mean, they completely outrushed the Ravens, 224 to 85 yards. So I think it's a little bit of all 3 of those, and he just got it out, and now he'll be fine.
And it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Another tough defense this upcoming week for the Ravens when they play the Chiefs. But other good games that we see are the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are both 3-0. Of course, we see some other good games like Seattle and Arizona on Thursday night. Colts and Rams, where we didn't expect this game to be as good as it is. Colts still look very well, but it's going to be exciting to see what we see from this upcoming slate of NFL games. But now we got to go into our college football segment. Guys, we had some pretty good games, multiple ranked versus ranked matchups. What were some of the updates from this past weekend, Evan?
Yeah, we saw right away the big noon kickoff. Texas Tech destroyed Utah, maybe getting more of a clearer picture of how the Big 12 is going to shape out. They won that one 34-10. They even had their backup quarterback come in after the starter Morton left the game. Will Hammond came in, threw 2 touchdowns right away, had almost 200 yards in just the half he played. So, I mean, we know Texas Tech spends the most money in the Big 12, and maybe that's starting to pay off, and maybe they could be the Big 12 leader.
Yeah, and I actually saw a graphic that mentions that where the top 7 schools in the transfers are all undefeated up to this point. I mean, that
pay to win.
Yeah, you pay to win, and it's working out. I mean, Texas Tech, it's been probably 2 decades since they've been a legitimate contender in the Big 12, and they just dog-walked one of the newbies of the Big 12. And this team looks legit. They got talent on both offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We also talked about last week about how chaotic the Big 12 is. So it would not be a shock to me if, another team steps up, but I think the Big 12 is weaker, and Texas Tech will take full advantage of that.
And another game that we have to talk about where it was an absolute blowout, and I'm shocked. You're shaking your head because you were probably shocked. I mean, what matchup are we talking about here?
We're talking about Indiana, Illinois. Indiana win that one 63-10. I thought Illinois was just going to win the game outright, and they got smacked in front of at Bloomington. Mendoza looked great for Indiana. I started to check out of this game in the second half. I just kept looking back, and it was Indiana just putting on more and more points. It was a beatdown.
Mendoza has been absolutely fantastic this year.
Honestly, I'm not surprised by that. The Indiana-Illinois game, I'm not surprised that Indiana won. I mean, they made the playoffs last year, and they did good against Notre Dame in that playoff game. They did fall off in second round, but I'm really not shocked by this. Indiana got some really good transfers, and they just rebuilt. They lost Roick and all these other quarterbacks, and then Mendoza just came in from Cal. And, Mendoza ball is really good ball.
Yeah, I mean, he is this is air raid offense. I mean, and he could attack with his legs a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think going into this matchup, I was wondering, are they legit? And I'm asking that for both teams. Illinois' preseason top 10, are they legit? Indiana, we saw how well they did last year, like you mentioned, Reece. Are they legit? And I don't know if we get that message. There's some critics in the media who still think Indiana has played nobody. But what do you guys think of Indiana? I mean, that performance, I think Illinois is still good enough to where they just murdered a really good school.
Indiana's played Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. They've beat them by well over 100 points in those first 3 games and given up 23. This offense is very capable of scoring a lot of points, and the defense is very capable of holding a weaker opponent to nothing at all. I mean, next week against Iowa is probably going to be a pretty solid opportunity for them to show how they can fare against a Big Ten opponent, but they play Oregon in 2 weeks. I mean, Indiana has every opportunity to make a serious statement in the Big Ten. I mean, Penn State, Wisconsin, they're going to face strong opponents, and I'm going to put my bid on them now. I think we could see Indiana in a Big Ten championship.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they only have Oregon and Penn State are their only tough opponents. If they win split those, let's say they beat Oregon and only lose to Penn State, I mean, they could, even if they don't make the Big Ten championship, they could still be sneaking the playoffs again, and everyone will be mad again.
I mean, absolutely. If they beat
It's a
both
capable
of them,
team.
Yeah.
They seem capable, and especially if they beat Oregon and Penn State, I mean, the door's open for them. One more matchup we got to talk about that was ranked versus ranked. Oklahoma and Auburn was a pretty good game, and there was a little bit of controversy with that trick play. But what do we see from Oklahoma's win over Auburn?
Yeah, Oklahoma winning 24-17 over Auburn. I think Oklahoma starting to feel legit. You talked about the controversial call. I don't know how controversial it is now because the SEC spoke about it, but it was basically they used what they call a hideout tactic. Receiver looks like he's going to walk off the field, and he just kind of camped out by the sideline, get a wide open touchdown. Obviously, it was only a one-score game, so could have changed the outcome of the game. SEC later came out and said that would have been a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. So if you're an Auburn fan, you're probably going to be holding on that one thinking that's a game you probably should win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they only lost by a score, and that's a score right there off of just what was a hideout tactic. But for other games, Miami looked really well in their matchup against Florida. Miami continues to climb the rankings. Evan, I'm going to go back to you. What are some of the big games this weekend? I mean, this is a full slate, and it seems like it only heats up as the day goes on.
This is one of the best weekend for sports in general. I mean, this is just a loaded Saturday slate. We'll talk about later about some great NFL games. Ryder Cup this weekend. All around great things happening. Starting off at noon, number 21 USC versus number 23 Illinois. This is where we'll truly find out about Illinois. There's also just been USC's kind of been irrelevant the last couple years since they were at the top of the country. So we'll see if they actually have what it takes to maybe be a team in the Big Ten that you should look out for. Then you start getting to 3:30 slate. Ohio State, Washington, sneaky trap game. Ohio State has to go to Washington. Watch out, Washington's looking pretty good. But the main game at 3:30 is number 4 LSU, number 13 Ole Miss. Ole Miss has kind of been I don't want to say surprising because we always expect Ole Miss to be at the top, but this will truly tell us if LSU is going to be the top SEC school. Will they be competing for a national title? That game, with being at Ole Miss, could be dicey. Then Oregon, Penn State, number 6 versus number 3, 7 o'clock. Like you said, just keeps ramping up. We keep getting these higher games. 2 top 10 matchup, and Oregon, new quarterback. Penn State is this team that everyone had as one of the favorites. They have everybody returning, so they both get a test for each of them. And then rounded out is number 17, Alabama, and number 5, Georgia. Remember the amazing game we had from last year. If Alabama loses this game, I mean, they're going to want Kalen DeBoer out of there quickly. I mean, they already do, but it's going to be over for DeBoer.
Yeah, the seat for DeBoer is heating up a little bit, but to go back to the slate, I mean, this is a fantastic slate. I mean, a top 10 matchup, number 4 LSU hosting number 13 Ole Miss, the top 10 matchup was number 6 Oregon and number 3 Penn State. I mean, this is going to be an exciting week. I'm so excited for it, but we have to go into our next segment now, Read and React. Guys, this is, of course, when we read and react to the biggest news and headlines in sports, and we're starting off with a retirement that kind of takes us back a little bit. Great head coach from Auburn, Bruce Pearl, has announced his retirement and that his son, Steven, will take over. Guys, I mean, this is unexpected. What are your guys' reactions to this?
It's unfortunate to see him go, I can't lie. I have absolutely loved the Bruce Pearl era at Auburn. He has been a fantastic coach, but I'm interested to see how Steven takes over. I mean, I can't lie. I do feel like we've got a bit of we've got a man behind the curtain here who's still going to be calling some shots. Because let's be real here, as far away as Bruce Pearl steps from the game ain't going to let Bruce Pearl walk away.
No, he's still going to be a part of that program. But I guess, he's rebuilt Auburn. He helped build up Tennessee, which led him to Auburn. And I think this is just so shocking. I mean, Auburn seemed like this was kind of the point now where, hey, they're an SEC title contender every year. They're a Final Four contender every year. Were they ever going to break through and get that national title? And with his retirement, I can't help but think that that's gone now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that way too. And it wasn't like last year's team that they lost everybody. Like everyone graduated. They got a lot of guys returning. They're going to be in those talks again this season. And for this to happen, right the first day of official practices was very shocking. I think his son taking over is a little interesting too. I think you're right there, Connor, with the man behind the scenes. Steven doesn't have any coaching experience. He has 5 years behind his dad, and that's it. I'm surprised they didn't at least go to try to get an outside hire, because I think there's a lot of people who would leave their jobs to go coach Auburn basketball.
Yeah, especially where Bruce has them right now. Yeah, son taking over. I don't want to say Nepo baby,
yeah,
but it's kind of feeling like that.
Yeah.
But another head coach in basketball, WNBA coach for the New York Liberty, Sandy Brondello's contract is not going to be renewed by the Liberty. Brondello won the title last year with the Liberty. This is her second title as a head coach. She won one with the Phoenix Mercury as well. She was one of the best coaches. She coached the All-Star game this year, and they had a 27-17 record. Are we shocked that they're not renewing her?
Absolutely.
100%.
This is the one of the more interesting situations moving into the end of the WNBA season, because there are going to be a lot of coaching vacancies, I feel like, and the Liberty have a really strong foundation on that team. It's shocking to see the front office basically say, we don't want a successful coach back, and let her walk into a market where there are a lot of teams that are willing to make a splash and make some pretty big changes to have Brondello come and take over.
And I just don't understand it. I mean, it feels like professional basketball has a longevity problem now. Do you guys think that as well?
100%. If you don't win the championship right away, if you don't win it every year, you're gone. It's a problem, and things take time to build. Only one team can win it every single year. And these coaches have such short leashes. If they have one bad season, one bad stretch, they're immediately out.
We just saw it with Michael Mallonn. I mean, every team that falls off within 1 or 2 years, it falls off in a very heavy set of air quotes there, because you still see success with the Liberty and the Nuggets, and they're just letting their head coaches walk.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're basically seeing in professional basketball musical chairs where, oh, okay, well, this guy came in and he won in 2 seasons with us, so we're going to bring you in now. Oh, well, you won in one season, you won us the title, but you didn't get quite near the same due to maybe some different circumstances. Gone. Bye. We'll find somebody else. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can't. Teams aren't willing to wait to allow a coach to develop and work through. I mean, there's so many different things that could play into whether or not you make it even to a championship or not. You could have injuries, new coaching staff, things like that, development. Players could take a step back. Some players could retire. Some could be traded. There's so much that goes into coaching that I think, especially after a 27-17 record this year and winning a title with them, I think them firing her is ridiculous. I mean, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of going back, like a question for everyone. I don't care who, responds, but do we think, like, with negotiations, did she maybe ask for too much money?
I think it's possible. I do.
Pay her. She's
I was
a
gonna say,
winner. Pay her.
If she won a title with you, was one of the coaches at the All-Star game, and led you pretty far into the playoffs after, she lost in 3 games to the Phoenix Mercury, which happens. No, I think even if she's asking enough, she's shown she can get the results to earn the money that she wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just can't believe they just let her go. And I think even when a journalist first asked them in the press conference after they were eliminated was, hey, there's some talks that you might not be coming back. And Breanna Stewart was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And it came up true. So now we're seeing this conflict that, hey, some of the best players clearly didn't want her to go. And the franchise themselves is saying, walk, get out. And I just can't believe it. I can't believe that Brindello was just told, like, hey, thanks for the title, but you're heading out. But now we are going to go to our final table segment, where we pick our favorite underdog for this week across all sports. We went 1 for 4 last week, which brings us to 4 for 16 this year. And guys, we have to make a week where we get multiple correct selections. Jack, I'm going to go with your pick first because this was a team you went against last week, and now you're going for this week. Who do you got?
Yes, I have the Colts over the Rams. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites. I'm all in on this Colts team now, especially after watching them. They played great. They're tied for 2nd in points per game, 4th in passing yards, 3rd in rushing yards with no turnovers. Nobody was expecting this out of Danny Dimes, especially not me. But, the Rams struggled against Philly's passing attack last week, and Daniel Jones has been great in the air.
And for the next upset watch selection, we're going to continue with an NFL game pick. Connor, you have that NFL game pick. Who do you got?
I am once again going back to an insane sicko's take. I have got the Panthers over the Patriots. They are plus 5.5. We didn't have the opportunity to discuss the top 10 rookies this week, but there is a list. Tyler Warren of the Colts, top 3, Ted
Number
McMillan,
2.
top 5. These guys are incredibly talented rookies, and the Patriots' secondary has been absolutely shambles over the first couple of weeks. The Panthers have the opportunity to kind of set the tone and get back in the win column and stay in the win column after really putting on a show against the Falcons last week.
I agree with your selection. You almost made my heart drop there. But I do think this Panthers team is getting better. They dominated Atlanta, like you mentioned, and Bryce Young is really becoming comfortable as a pro football quarterback. But now we're going to go to Reese. This is your first upset watch selection. Who do you got for this time?
I got Syracuse over Duke. Syracuse won big against Clemson last week. Big shocker there. Clemson maybe.
Yeah. I have taught you well.
And then, Duke just lost to, an okay Tulane team. And then they did lose to I'm not really good, but a good Illinois team. They did just get blown up by Indiana, but I still see them as being pretty good. And then I think they can rebound. Kinda, and then, Syracuse, I think they're a sleeper ACC team, and I think they can get a really good dub against this Duke team.
And I think overall they're a strong football team. They've looked inconsistent at times because they played UConn to overtime, but they controlled Clemson. I believe Steve Agnelli's the quarterback for Syracuse, and he's out for a couple weeks, if not the entire year. So I think that's the only reason why the spread is as far as it is. But I think overall the Orange are a good football team that could dominate this Duke team that hasn't looked very well. And I had to save this one for last because this is going to make a lot of people at the table question you. Evan, who is your upset watch selection?
The Washington Huskies over number 1 in the country, Ohio State plus 8.5 trap game. Ohio State has to go across the country. Not a tough place to play. Damon Williams has been amazing as quarterback, dual threat guy for Washington. Ohio State just on a bye week, maybe a slow start, catches them off guard. This is not This is not that crazy of a take as you guys are reacting to it as. Washington will make this game close, and I would not be shocked. And I obviously I think it'll happen. Picking it, Washington will beat Ohio State.
I mean, you left us at the table speechless just because we don't know much about Washington. I like your selection. I understand where you're coming from with this game. I won't agree with
The
it.
Ohio Bobcats were within 4 points in the third quarter to Ohio State. They can be beat. They're not invincible.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be beneficial for Ohio State to come off this bye week. They still have plenty of talent, and we just don't know much about Washington ever since DeBoer left. I mean, this is still a rebuilding program, and I like what you're going with on the thought process. I just think you should have picked someone else other than somebody beating Ohio State currently. I mean, we'll see, though. But now, finally, is our weekly awards where we decide the SportsBeat game and player of the week. Football against Bowling Green is going to be our game of the week. Both teams are 2-2. They have played multiple Power 4 teams, and they are both ready for their MAC opener. This game is in Peden Stadium, and this is going to be an exciting game for what is a noon kickoff. Our SportsBeat player of the week is going to stick with football. That's going to be running back C.A. Bangura, 18 carries, 123 yards, nearly 7 yards a carry, and scored 3 touchdowns. Of course, we mentioned that earlier. They were career highs for Bangura, so congrats to him. Thank you for listening to SportsBeat on WOUB. I'm your host, Jake Collins, and with me at the desk today is
Reece Merkel.
Conor Mallonn.
Evan Johnson.
Jack Zwiezinski.
You can find us on WOUB 1340 AM radio, online at woub.org/listen. Our episodes can be found on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Don't forget, you can follow us on our Instagram at SportsBeat WOUB. We'll see you next week. This has been SportsBeat.